Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Ride or Die Episode 8. Weezer, SZNZ.
Hello and welcome to another episode of I Caught It on Audio. Today we are going to be doing our Ride or Die series. This is going to be our 8th in the series so far, and we're going to be revisiting the original Ride or Die, which is Weezer. They've come out with a new, what do they call it? Like a set of EPs?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. They're all, 7 songs?
Yeah, roughly 7 songs. It's the Seasons, or SZNZ. We've got Seasons, Spring, Summer, Autumn, and Winter, which came out in, well, it looks like they came out on the day of, the first day of spring in 2002, first day of summer in 22, and then autumn and winter. So it was a very, very deliberate release on that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, these all came out over the last year, and we thought we'd revisit them. We've got got me, of course, my wife Jamie, and Dan, the 3 who were also on the original Weezer Ride or Die.
Well, shall we go through them individually in order here?
Yeah, we can kind of talk about them individually. Yeah, let's talk about Spring. So Spring was 1, 2, 3. Yep, 7 tracks. Got Opening Night, Angels on Vacation, A Little Bit of Love, The Garden of Eden, Sound of Drums, Love in the Air, and Wild at Heart. These are all pretty lighthearted, fun, energetic songs, encompassing the idea of spring, I feel. What are your guys' thoughts on that? On this little set? You have anything in particular?
Well,
Go
I
ahead,
noticed
Jamie.
the angel theme.
Yeah.
It was interesting. The Garden of Eden and all that. That was, I don't know, an interesting bit to it.
Yeah, it was definitely very thematic. I'm assuming Rivers wrote almost all of this on his own, if not with a little bit of help from the other bandmates. But there was a lot of Christian and Greek mythology in the theme of this whole thing, and the whole angels going and doing fun things and stuff like that.
Yep. So the 3 songs that I liked the most were All This Love, Sound of Drums, and Wild at Heart. This is, I think, my least favorite of the 4 albums or EPs. It did sort of set the template that they mostly followed, sort of the production sound sort of being light. And it I think in one of the interviews, Rivers may have mentioned that it was more like an Islands in the Sun kind of sound from the Green Album.
Absolutely.
Which I think is pretty fair. That's one of my least favorite songs on that album personally, so I didn't really love what they were going for. But I mean, I think they accomplished that. A lot of really, really childlike lyrics.
Yep.
The first song was about a minute in, I was like, oh my God, or 30 seconds in, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to have to listen to 27 more songs. Because they did this thing that they did on the rest of the album where they borrowed from a classical piece. More often than not, they borrowed from Vivaldi's Four Seasons, which, kind of on the nose, but all right, that makes sense. So this uses the melody from Spring, that Vivaldi, the most famous, melody from the Four Seasons. And he sings Shakespeare lyrics over it on this first song. What was this song called again? Opening Night, I think.
Opening Night, yeah.
And then it switches into sort of classic Weezer for the chorus, which is just weird. But I don't know. The lyrics was just, I don't know. He's just naming characters from Shakespeare plays. and saying he likes Shakespeare. And okay, like that's fine, but it's very childlike. Definitely. This was, like I said, this is my least favorite of the four. But there were a few songs where I was like, oh, okay, this isn't terrible. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this one.
Yeah. This, honestly, for me, this was probably the best one of the four. I liked the upbeat lightheartedness of it. And
are you an Island in the Sun?
I love
fan?
Island in the Sun. I think it's great. And it's okay with me that you are wrong about your opinion on that one, but I think it's a great song. I really liked Garden of Eden and Sound of Drums on this one. Those were the two that kind of stood out to me. I would find myself singing Garden of Eden, after, walking through the grocery store or doing the dishes or whatever. So I thought it was really catchy. I liked it a lot. But yes, there are definitely, I mean, Rivers has proven he's run out of things to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that is evident in the vast majority of the lyrics in this compilation. So, yeah.
I found a quote about what I was doing a little reading. I think it was on I think it was on Wikipedia or something. That really summed up how I feel about Weezer. I'm just going to read it. It's from this guy, David Gill. He's a writer for Riff Magazine. Okay. And he said specifically about Summer, but this really sort of summed it up for me. Cuomo's patented brand of plain-spoken emotional vulnerability is still there, but the psychological urgency of the Blue Album and Pinkerton seem to have been replaced by a kind of ironic, almost vocational indifference. It's as if 30 years after releasing some of the most intense and evocative emo rock ever made, Cuomo and Weezer now approach music as a problem to solve rather than a vehicle for their own catharsis. That really kind of nails it. They just feel like they're kind of going through the motions a little bit most of the time. And I think that the lyrics on these four, when we did the last Ride or Die and we listened to 75 Weezer albums that were all mediocre at best.
Yeah.
The lyrics didn't jump out as being great, but
no.
I think when it comes to musicality, I quite enjoyed these four overall, and we'll get through them as we move on here. But man, the lyrics, I was just hoping not to understand what he was saying, because whenever I did, I was like, oh geez, Rivers, that is memorably awkward and not in a ingratiating way to me. Yeah. And I don't want to have to sing along to this, the actual words that you're saying. But yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
A lot on that I liked a lot of the music part of it, the instrument part of it, but yeah, the lyrics sometimes just caught me in a really wrong way. Just not good.
Not good at all.
Awkward and not in a non-endearing kind of way.
Yes. Or like you said, you're 50. Why are you complaining about the stuff that you complained about 30 years ago? I don't know.
Right.
Yep. Well, Sound of Drums, even though that's one of my favorites, is another retread of the classic, I Want to Go Back Weezer song.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that song, but it's not breaking any new ground. Right. They've written so much music and he's written so many lyrics that I guess it's understandable, but that's what makes these sort of not quite reach the great levels. But anyway, I think we've covered spring pretty well. Do you want to move on to summer?
Yeah, let's move on to summer. None of these really stuck out to me. I kind of like blue like jazz. Maybe it was just the repeat of the line that made it memorable, and that's the reason I can't even think of it. You've got your classic shout out to or call out to other artists with records.
Yeah.
One of the tropes that he loves to do. Where he names a bunch of bands and spends 3 minutes talking about that.
He does like to do that, doesn't he?
He does. I almost went through and made a spreadsheet of all of the albums and found the Life of Being in a Band song, the talking about other bands' song, the
Girls Don't Like Me.
The Girls Don't Like Me song, the Girl Who Got Away song.
Mm-hmm. How do I talk to this girl? You know,
right? The Lost in My Own Despair song.
Yeah.
Well, what's the good of being good is kind of like that. You know, he's no loving wife to smile at me, no daughter to dote on with pride. It's I don't know.
Well, and the weird thing about that one is it was fairly boilerplate. I regret some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then like there's the bridge where he's like, my best friend betrayed me, and I was like, what? is this personal? I don't know. That was very awkward lyrically. I would say I liked the sound of this one overall. I think I definitely liked it more than Spring, which like I said was probably my least favorite. The songs that jumped out to me were Records. Yeah, the cheesy Rihanna,
Lana, and Nirvana.
Yeah. Like, okay, cheesy, but cheesy is what you're getting at this point. There's no avoiding it. Blue Like Jazz, I like that one. That one uses part of Vivaldi's Summer as part of the melody, which has an interesting sort of melody, but in the chorus it kind of picks up on that.
Probably why it felt familiar.
Yep, I kind of like The Opposite of Me and Thank You and Good Night, but I don't want to be quoted on like endorsing the lyrics on those. Pretty awful lyrically, but I like the sound. What the note I specifically left was like the sound ! Lyrics not so much.
Yeah.
And what did you guys think of the overture song for this one? The lawn chairs one. The one that sounds like it's setting up the album and isn't really a song.
It didn't stand out to me at all. I couldn't tell you what happened in that one, to be honest with you. So
same. I'm looking at the lyrics and I'm like, I still don't even really remember it.
Well, it was just weirdly structured. It's like I call it an overture because it doesn't have song structure. Like it just it's linear, it doesn't loop around on itself,
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and it like kind of comes in with the big guitars at the end, and it feels. I mean, all these songs are like 2 minutes, but this one is also short that way, and it doesn't like really have a verse or chorus. It just sort of lays some stuff out. I don't know. I thought of that one as the sort of overture for this one. It has some of the sounds of it. I don't know that it works as a song, but it was kind of interesting. Again, lyrically, I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, I kind of like this one. This was I just like what I wrote down on my notes for this one is it really has the Blue Album sound. It's nice and chunky and heavy guitars.
Yeah,
and that made me enjoy it. But yeah, I think this was one of the better ones for me. Jamie, do you have any thoughts?
I did like this one. I liked Blue Like Jazz. And I don't know, even What's the Good of Being Good was kind of like catchy.
Yeah.
If you didn't pay too close attention to the lyrics. Yeah.
Yep.
And Records too. I did like that one, although it just feels off a little bit when he throws in the expletives sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really a hardcore rocker.
He's trying to be edgy, but you don't feel like he's being sincere when he's writing, so it feels very calculated. Because there's a little cursing early on, I think. Maybe there isn't cursing on.
Well, there's Pinkerton, yeah. God damn you, half Japanese girls.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny. The lyrics on Pinkerton are nothing if not awkward.
But they feel sincere.
They feel sincere, genuine. And vulnerable in a sort of, this is kind of embarrassing kind of way. But like that, it helps connect to people. I think these are just kind of embarrassing in their. I feel like he needs to work with someone on his writing who says, "Okay, I know what you're trying to say, but we need to rewrite this line." There's a lot of that in these four. Yeah,
and we've made this comparison in the last podcast, but it's like Aerosmith with their second act, the David Geffen era. They brought in writers and had a ton of success. Why isn't Weezer and Rivers working with someone to kind of freshen things up a little bit.
Interestingly, Records was co-written with a couple of dudes I don't know.
Oh, was it?
And there's one or two other songs on these. There's maybe a handful total that were co-written with somebody.
Okay.
It's mostly just him, but
yeah.
I don't know. But I think we can come back to that. Were there any other songs that jumped out for you, Jamie, other than Records and Blue Like Jazz and What's the Good of Being Good?
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
Cuomoville had it was one of those ones where it was tough because the lyrics were dubious.
Yeah. But that was a strange song. It was memorable.
I liked the kind of the atmosphere he was creating with like the story he was telling with it, even though it was very clunky.
Yeah, I think that also borrows from another classical piece. It has a weird melody to it on the chorus, and as I was just reading random Wikipedia stuff while I was listening, it was mentioned that borrows from some Italian composer, and I was like, oh, okay, sure, that makes sense because it's a strange melody. It's memorable in its weirdness, but
yeah,
it's funny. Between the three of us, we've mentioned every song on here as sticking out. But we don't necessarily agree on which the good ones are. But
it's very interesting. Yeah.
All right. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about on summer,
let's move on to autumn. Unless you've got anything, honey. So, Can't Dance, Don't Ask Me is strange.
Yeah. Let's not read the lyrics. Well, this one had this was on my list of good songs. I'll let you go. I'm gonna let you finish, Taylor.
No,
but go ahead. But I like this one. But go ahead.
I mean, this one, he's definitely taken it. The summer joy is over, and we're into the into the decline, if you will. Is definitely the theme of this one. And man, I really hated Tastes Like Pain. I thought it was just terrible, and I skipped it after the first couple times listening to it. Like when it would come on, I would just move on to the next song because I couldn't stand it. But I liked like Run Raven Run. That one I liked. Mm-hmm. And I think Should She Stay or Should She Go was pretty good too.
I like that one.
And it was just really interesting that like Tastes Like Pain was right in the middle of those two, and I couldn't stand it. But then I enjoyed those two quite a bit. What did you think?
Well, Tastes Like Pain was my overture song for this one.
Okay.
It didn't feel like a song. It felt like a sort of statement of purpose. Weirdly, not at the beginning, like the first couple EPs here. It was near the end. It's another one that borrows from Vivaldi, but sort of vexingly, it borrows from Vivaldi's Winter movement, even though we're in the autumn.
Right.
I don't know what that's about. I feel like it would have made sense thematically, well, to be an opener, to sort of lay it out. I think this whole album was pretty pleasant sounding. It was more of like, what did I write down? I wrote down, it was sort of Green Album if you added in sort of a dance rock or synth pop sound to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Very polished, but definitely sort of synthy and straightforward drumming. The songs I liked were Can't Dance, Don't Ask. If I can just, not listen to the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Get Off on the Pain and What Happened After You, I thought were pretty good. Run Raven Run that's like the longest song on the whole, all 28, I think, right?
It's over
5 minutes.
5 minutes here, so.
And at about a minute in, I thought, I don't want to have to listen to this the whole time. But it switches tempo from sort of, it also switches time signature from 4 to 3. Mm-hmm. And then there's like this cool, like, Only in Dreams, like, section.
Yes.
With like, sort of dueling guitars and a build up.
It was low rent Only in Dreams.
Yeah. Like, and that's the funny thing. Even the songs I like in here, I'm like, oh, they're nowhere close to being, those first couple albums or even the first 3. So when I compare it, I'm like, yeah, but like it's worse than all the songs on the first 3 albums for me. But I did think it was interesting, and also, I mean, awkward lyrics, but abstract enough for it to like be kind of interesting. I didn't like get mad at the lyrics. Yeah, I would say that this had a very unified sound and was sort of the most easy listening. And I think it was I definitely liked it more than Spring, which was my least favorite. I feel like it's more listenable than Summer, but the highs on Summer were higher and the lows were lower. So I thought it was pretty good. What songs jumped out for you, Jamie?
I liked Francesca.
I did
think
not like that one. I don't know
you
why, but
did.
no, I didn't.
So I was listening to the albums in order, but they were the tracks were shuffled, and Francesca was the first one on Autumn that I heard, and it was like a change from the Summers album, and so I noticed it, and maybe that's why it stuck out more to me. But I liked that one. I liked Should She Stay or Should She Go, and I did like Run Raven Run. You know, the other ones that stuck out were Can't Dance, Don't Ask Me, and Get Off on the Pain. They were not my favorites, but I guess more memorable than the other ones. So
Yeah,
that's something.
So here's an interesting thing. Desmond Child, who did a lot of the writing on the Aerosmith stuff, was one of the writers on What Happens After You.
Yeah, I noticed that. Desmond Child's like, hey, but like these are like little one-offs. It's not like he's working with someone consistently,
not collaborating a whole album.
But yeah. All right. Anything else you guys have to say about this one? I feel like this one is the most radio ready one because it was really approachable.
I would agree. No, I'm ready to move on to Winter. I hated Basketball. What I mean, like I'm willing to forgive kind of clunky lyrics and stuff, but when your analogy is so bad, you know, this is basically him saying I can't do everything by myself, right? That's what he's saying. But he uses this weird, it's like he went on Wikipedia to learn how basketball works and then decided to write a song about it.
Yeah, having never actually played basketball.
Or even seen basketball. Or
yeah, it's like he's describing cricket, but he's not English, you know?
Right. So that didn't, it was just too much. And then I love the sentiment of I want a dog, but again, it just didn't come off right. Like, this is probably my least favorite of the albums, the Winter one. Just largely because those two were just so dreadful.
I really liked the song I Want a Dog, but I did note specifically that the lyrics were dumb. I mean,
just horrible lyrics.
And Basketball, I didn't love the song, and I really didn't like the lyrics too.
No.
The weird thing at the end of that I noticed at the end of I Want a Dog was there's like a little cat's meow at the very end.
Yes.
I was like, oh, are you saying that you have cats and you don't like cats? I don't get it.
Well, the lyrics are I made the wrong choice. Now I must pay the price. Trapped in my body and my own mind.
Oh, yeah. So the cat thing makes more sense now that I think about it.
I made my bed. Now I'm going to lie in it. That's what I get. I just wish I had a dog.
Yeah, it's not the best.
No.
So I had that one as one of the good songs on Winter.
Okay.
I also had I actually liked Dark Enough to See the Stars.
Yes.
Partly because it was the return of the harmonica, which I love in Weezer.
Yes.
That was so nice to hear.
That one might be one of my favorite songs on the whole collection here.
Yeah.
Dark Enough to See the Stars. I thought that was a phenomenal track.
I like that one too.
And then
that one,
go ahead.
When I was listening, you know, and it shuffled on the albums, I heard this one, Dark Enough to See the Stars, first on this one. And so that one stuck out to me as I don't know, again, a nice change and one that I liked.
Yeah, this whole album was more sort of Blue Album sounding again, but there was a lot of variation. The first time I listened to this one, I thought, oh, this is the worst. There's nothing good here. But when I went back and listened to it more carefully, and I was taking my notes, I sat and listened to them all in order this morning with a notepad, and I was like, this is better than I gave it credit for on my initial listens.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how well the songs hold together though. Like it just felt, I don't know, it felt like they were being varied and jumping around a lot to various success. Like there are parts of Iambic Pentameter that I really liked, but it felt like just a giant collage of ideas, and they could have edited a few of those ideas out. And I think the song would have been better for it, but it had its moments. Also, the quote unquote overture on this one, Sheraton Commander, was very strange.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah, that was my feeling at first. I really did not like it.
Yes. And then it came on again, and I was like, oh boy, here it goes. It's short, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't mind it the second time.
I came around a little bit, but it was my least favorite on everything, I think, sonically. But I came around a little bit on it. And that's that one borrows from some random classical piece that I don't know. The melody in the quote unquote chorus, if there is a chorus, but this one felt like the overture for this album, but like didn't sound sonically like any other song on any of these four. So I put that under interesting, but ultimately I don't know that it was entirely successful. But I think this was one of the weaker ones. Probably my second least favorite. But I wonder if I spent more time with it, because like it sort of rose in my estimation when I listened to it, after that first time. So I don't know. What I really like to do is pick the best 12 songs out of all of these, put them on one disc, and then I feel like it's the album we should have got after Green Album.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels
I don't disagree.
Like I was pleasantly surprised by these four after maybe we just bit off more than we can chew by doing all those albums at once.
Yeah,
it could be. I mean, there were definitely some dreadful moments in the original, in the 16 albums that we talked about last time. But
I like that there was a theme to kind of tie the different pieces together, and whether they held true to it or not, it was there. And then I agree, there were some moments where I was like, yeah, okay, this sound is what I think of when I think Weezer. Not always the lyrics, but often the sound on some of them. But like you say, it was really hit or miss as far as having the sound on some songs on each album and being cringeworthy on other songs.
Well, this is a little bit like we were saying earlier. Rivers doesn't self-edit very well. I was reading a little bit about Weezer again, and I'd read this before, but like after when they were going to get the band back together after taking a hiatus after Pinkerton didn't go well, he wrote like 120 songs, and for the Green Album, and then they sort of like pared it down. And the Green Album is interesting because there's very little variation. The only song that doesn't fit identically with them is Island in the Sun. Pretty much all the other songs pretty much sound the same. I mean, that's being simplistic about it, but like it's a very sort of monochromatic, if we can borrow the color idea, album. And I felt like he was just like, I got to play it super safe, because Pinkerton was a disaster, and it was a sales disaster, although it became sort of like most people's secret favorite, at least, the tastemakers, and they came around to it eventually. But so he dumps out 120 odd songs, and I'm thinking, God, I don't want to hear the other 110 songs that didn't make the album, and I'm sure he saved those and sort of used them over the years. But like he does this sort of organized thing where he records tons of demos and then just goes in and pulls stuff out and when he needs a song idea, and And I just wish someone could edit him, because there is one very good album in here in these 28 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, if he could just, I don't know, like, he's trying to keep it interesting, I'm sure, because they've been doing it for 30 years. And, you know, like you said, they're in their 50s now. And this is a cool idea to sort of like have 4 EPs for each season, you know, have them come out, you know, on the solstice and, you know, equinox and such, and have them be thematically tied together. But like, I don't think they really like, there's some like sonic themes that work, but like, I don't even know if like how well the lyrics, I don't know. It kind of does. I was looking for some random like Weezer fan opinions, so I checked out our Weezer on Reddit, and I was just like spinning through a bunch of you know, people's opinions on all these albums because I was curious, and I found someone's comment who sort of tried to sum up the sort of the story of each EP, and it's kind of funny because Dave, you were talking about, you know, how like all these songs are like in categories and stuff, and how you can sort of point out, oh, this is one of those songs. This person summed up the EPs as such, and it kind of works in that similar way. Spring, wow, we're so happy, I love you, ha ha ha. Summer, I'm an asshole now. Autumn, wait, no, I didn't mean to hurt you, don't go. And then winter, my whole life is ruined now that you're gone, time to die. Yep. I was like, yeah,
that's basically it.
Kind of works. I just wish that could have, you know, if you want to have that sort of like overarching, you know, like theme, just like take the best 2 or 3 songs from each of these EPs and, you know, put them on an album and have it be a really like the best Weezer album since the 90s. Or, you know, put out 4 EPs and it's kind of hit or miss. Some people love this stuff, you know. It just doesn't. I don't know. I just wish that the consistency was there. I wish I didn't feel like they were going through the motions all the time.
Yeah. What it feels like to me is somebody put a AI together that could write Weezer songs, and they said, all right, now we need each one of these themes met. So let's run the little AI machine, throw a little mythology in there, and then then it printed out this, you know. It just feels like it was a very contrived whole Weezer incident, you know.
Weezer incident is how I think about new albums. I'm like, oh no, another Weezer incident.
That's what it is. And you know, the AI came up with some really cool songs that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But it also just came up with a whole lot of filler that doesn't make much sense or didn't need to be published, you know.
Here's a thought experiment. You brought up AI. Do you think the lyrics would be better on these albums if AI wrote them? If you just put some keywords in?
That's originally how I got to that idea. I was like, man, these lyrics are not better than AI.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It would be interesting if I don't know how one goes about doing that, but
write me a Weezer song.
Yeah, write me a Weezer song.
Well, yeah, if you just chose the keywords and then or we could use your you know, the formula, like Dave, you could write your categories and put all the lyrics from those and then tell it to use those as reference to write a Weezer song. I don't think it'd be worse than the lyrics on these albums.
Yeah, and you know, in complete fairness, there are some really good songs with good lyrics on this. You know, there's no doubt about it.
What I hope for is that I don't notice the lyrics. One of the fun things about those first couple albums, and it's really just the first 2, is that in their sort of awkward quirkiness, the lyrics added to the songs and made them more interesting, even if they were being, you know, weird, like the sweater song or overly sharing, like every song on Pinkerton.
Right.
Like it helped you sort of like it gave you an extra sheen. It was like, all right, the sound is like Beach Boys with heavy guitars. Okay, cool idea. Now put also, some goofy lyrics on top.
She's a lesbian. You know, it's like that's a little cringy, but
for sure. But like it feels like you said earlier, he's being honest. You know, like And the funny story about that, maybe we talked about this before, is he just saw her in a like wearing a pink triangle on her sleeve in solidarity with
Right.
LGBT community at Harvard. She wasn't a lesbian. He was just like, oh, she's a lesbian, damn it. And then he went and wrote the song. And I'm like, that's fantastic. It's an honest feeling. It's like a snapshot of this moment where he's like, he likes this girl and he's like, oh crap, she's a lesbian. It doesn't matter. I haven't even spoken to her anyway.
Right.
It's, you know, it's all in his head. But that's how people feel. I don't know who feels like these songs. Like, are these actual, at best, it's this super simplistic version of how someone might feel at age 14 about like the song I Want a Dog. It's like, you know, it's like, okay. Or you know, like you talked about the tortured basketball metaphors and you know, it's like, man, this is this doesn't feel genuine. It feels like a puzzle to solve, you know. It doesn't feel like, and also like half-assed. It feels half-assed. Like, well, I got it out, and I'm not a good enough writer to improve this, and I don't really want to work with anyone. Or my taste is such where I'm like, maybe he spent hours poring over these lyrics. I don't know, but it's just not working for me.
Yeah.
I mean, some people love this, I'm sure. I just feel like it's a real step down from their sort of prime period. Was it Matt Damon or Leslie Jones?
Matt Damon was Ride or Die.
Yeah, sorry, Matt. I'm still with Leslie Jones, even though this is the best stuff I think that I've heard from Weezer in a long time.
What I wanted to ask about this one was none of us were Ride or Die after the last set, right? Would this bring you closer to being Ride or Die? Like, was this an improvement over the last, you know, what were the last few albums? The Van Weezer, OK Human, and all those last few albums. Is he moving in the right direction, or is this just kind of more of the same?
It's so polar to me. Like,
yes,
some songs, yes, and some songs no. Like some songs, like moving a million miles farther away. But I don't know. The thing I come back to is I root for Weezer. Like I have such love for Weezer from the Blue album and Pinkerton and even the Green album and some of those earlier albums after that I will always root for Weezer. I will listen to, you know, things that they put out. But, you know, it was a chore to kind of think, okay, I have to study this music a little bit, you know, just I appreciate it more if I can just have it on and not worry about whether it's good or not.
Yeah, you're searching for good. My initial thought when you asked the question, Dave, was both. Yeah. Both, like, hey, sonically, there's some good stuff in here. It's inconsistent, but some of it's really good. And then lyrically, I'm like, we're further away from me being able to, you know, get anything productive out of anything that Rivers has to say. I don't know when the last time I thought, you know, oh man, the lyrics in that are pretty good, but it was the early 2000s. You know,
for sure.
Again, we bit off so much. Maybe that's unfair to some of those albums, some of the many albums, you know, post Maladroit, which is when I stopped really paying attention, all the way up to OK Human. But I thought there were moments where I was like, that's the old Weezer. And then pretty consistent throughout the whole album. I was like, God, I would rather hear like non-sung versions of these songs, I think.
Yep.
Just to avoid the lyrics. It's not the singing's awful. Some really good singing.
Right.
Dave, we were talking about how Bono lost his fastball on the thing. I think they're performing as well as they ever have.
And I think to that, I think Bono was, you know, top tier to begin with. So him coming down a few steps is only to be expected, whereas Rivers is just an average successful rock singer.
Sometimes it works amazing. Sometimes you're like, yeah, but the guitars sound cool. You know?
So he didn't have as much to lose. So, you know, I think still I pick Bono to sing my songs, Bono today to sing my songs instead of Rivers today. You know,
whose song? Like the song that you wrote, the song that Weezer wrote?
all the songs that I write. No,
Okay.
but I still think Bono is a better singer. But yes, he's definitely dropped. Whereas Rivers does not feel like his singing quality has
Yeah.
dropped.
Now they're
Absolutely.
about 10 years younger, so okay,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
it's
true.
coming, but
That's true.
But the Bono at his peak was way up there. I mean, way up there.
Best of the best.
Yeah, like he's one of the best rock singers ever.
Yep.
But now what we listened to on the 40 for whatever songs of 40ness,
songs of being old,
was not great. And maybe if they were new songs, I would have felt differently, but not great.
Yeah.
This, like the performance, the singing, the drums was great on a lot of this stuff, especially on Summer. And there were some cool bass moments on the iambic pentameter too.
Yep.
We don't get as much fun bass from Weezer since Matt Sharp left the band, after those first two albums. I rarely noticed the bass as being a positive on Weezer, but there were a couple of cool moments in these songs, and some cool guitar. He always loves the sort of like shreddy, old arena rock stuff, and I like that in there sometimes. I didn't love Van Weezer, but a little bit of that mixed in is good. And yeah, the performances are great. The singing was really good for Weezer singing.
Yep.
No real drop off there.
It was on par with any other Weezer album as far as vocals were concerned.
Yep. There's a little bit of polish on it. I mean, it's hard to say because there's a lot of sort of goofiness on Blue Album that they've never quite recaptured exactly.
Right.
Like that super endearing, little like falsetto Matt Sharp stuff.
Debut album, kind of try some fun stuff out.
Yeah. And they were
willing to take the risks.
And they were like 20 or 21, so okay, that's fine. And then there was really emotive singing, really good emotive singing on Pinkerton. And I don't think we're on that level, but it's perfectly acceptable. And there were some really good moments. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised by this, but it needs some real editing. I don't want to listen to any one of them all the way through. But the best 10 or 12 songs, that could make a good album.
Yep, you make another 35-minute Weezer album out of this, and I think it'd be top 5 for sure, without a doubt. Maybe,
I think so.
Maybe top 3.
I don't think it's quite as good as Green, but I would say top 5, like 4th or 5th. I think you could make an album in that range. That really speaks as much to how disappointing I find their output in the last 20 years. But yeah, some good stuff. Jamie, what were your overall feelings on the whole, all 4 of them?
Yeah, I had heard from Jack, a friend of his at school, is a Weezer fan, and she hated Seasons. That was the only comment that I'd heard about it before listening to it. And so, I mean, I was surprised at how much I did like on it. I would not say it's their worst output.
No.
It's just a lot, and that, like you were saying before, we bit off more than we can chew with listening to all of the albums that we missed or didn't pay attention to and trying to judge them critically at one point in time. And so, like you said, if it was, I don't know about any one album in here, any one of the seasons in here, but certainly a couple of songs from each of them. And I think it would be a good album, a good kind of comeback, or however you want to frame it. But there were some good things on here. So yeah, I was surprised at how much I did enjoy it.
Do you know if Jack's friend likes pretty much everything up to Seasons, or just the stuff in the middle?
So this would be like a 17 or 18-year-old, and I don't know what her background is as far as when she started listening and what she really likes about it. But
yeah, I'd be interested to hear from somebody who's younger who likes Weezer. Does Jack? He probably has heard the first 3 or 4 albums a bunch, right?
Jack's heard all of it because he rode around in the car with me doing school drop off and all that stuff when we were doing the first Ride or Die. So he's heard all of it. I would imagine he thinks Blue is the best, but I can't say for sure.
Well, I'm sure he also heard the first several albums before Ride or Die, because those are still albums that you guys will listen to in the car and stuff, right?
Right.
Like while you're carting him around to various activities and such.
Yep.
And also, well, certainly the Blue album is the kind of album that kids can enjoy because there's some funness to it. As long as they're not paying too close attention to how horny Rivers is in Pinkerton. That one's pretty fun too. But yeah. All right. Anything else anybody wants to say?
I think I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, we've got, like I said at the beginning, this is our 8th one in this series, and you'll be able to listen to any of those other 7 where you listen to this one. We've got another follow-up to Smashing Pumpkins, which we had previously done. We're going to be talking about their, I don't even know how you say it, but their rock opera album that just released. That should be coming out in the next week or 2 after this, so look for that. If liking and subscribing is a thing you can do on your service, do those. And let us know what your favorite Weezer song is in the comments. And we'll see you in the next one.
I caught it on audio.